From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. If you have any questions you'd like to ask or advice you'd like to give, come on over to podtherapy.net and join the conversation. On today's episode, I do something I swore I would never do. I will apologize to Jim.
Yeah!
You're not going to want to miss this. And now, broadcasting from the churn, that guy is Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tangeman. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
Oh my god, I am so excited. I wonder what it's going to be for. This is like a surprise present.
So, well,
there's so many things you should apologize for. I mean, I can think of like a dozen off the top of my head, so I wonder if it'll be one of those.
You know what? I'm not going to do
it.
No.
The people must have it.
Well, there's a little bit of a backstory because our listeners who aren't patrons will not understand the backstory here. So we do a book club.
Yeah.
At the end of the last episode that we were doing for Chapter 3 of the book club, we started talking about Thanksgiving a little bit. Kind of started talking about our Thanksgiving plans.
Yeah.
And you explained a tradition that you have. And I thought it was the stupidest thing ever.
Hold on, before you finish that story, let me explain what it was, because these guys haven't heard it.
And then I tried it.
You tried it.
But go ahead.
Oh, I'm so glad you tried it. So I knew you'd love it. So every Thanksgiving, I have an anal orgy with a bunch of bikers. And
wait, no.
Oh, I'm glad
not
you
that
one. Oh.
No.
The sandwich thing?
The sandwich.
Oh.
Your Thanksgiving sliders.
Well, this show just got marked explicit for no good reason.
Yeah. So Jim does this thing where he will have his plate of food and he will, cut open the buns and whatever, and then he'll stack all the food on a bun and he makes Thanksgiving sliders.
Thanksgiving sliders, man. Take the biscuit, you cut it open, throw everything on there, man. The cranberry sauce, the turkey, put some gravy on there, put some mashed taters on there, the whole thing. You tried it, huh?
I did.
Changed the game.
It's your Fifth Symphony. It's your Mona Lisa.
This is it.
You could die today knowing
that
you left the world
a better
with
place.
Thanksgiving sliders.
Man, I really, you're not the only one. A bunch of our friends, a bunch of TheraPals and TheraPods were posting pictures, and they were like, "All right, Jim, I'm giving this a shot," which means they had to have listened to the book club, and they had to get to the end of the book club when we were just BSing about Thanksgiving, and they listened that far and found out the secret. And the secret is take a biscuit, slice it in half, make sliders. And I saw yours. Yours look really good.
Well, I use the Hawaiian Kings
rolls. Ooh, good call.
Really good.
Yeah. So I did it at my Thanksgiving, and of course, everybody in the house looked at me in horror, as they do every year, and I don't care. I don't care. They're all sitting there with their stupid forks and knives, okay? And I'm sitting there efficiently eating a sandwich that has everything I need. It was good. Fantastic. And you make a bunch of them. Like, you have little sliders, like little soldiers on your plate. You're ready to go. Oh, I'm glad
it's amazing.
You liked it.
I've known you for years, and this is the first time you've ever contributed something positive to my life.
Try the orgy thing. Okay? Now that you're in a taste and see kind of mood.
I'm going to stick with the sliders.
Listen, it's about things you're grateful for, Nick.
Right.
Think about things you're grateful for. Oh, my mom's not listening to this. Luckily,
she will be when I send it.
Nobody I love listens to the show.
All right. Let's get into our mail.
Yeah, we got tons of good mail, and so much we cannot do science. We got to dive right into it. And this first one I thought was really, really good. I think a lot of people can relate to this. And the title was Falling in Love with a Broken Person. I'm recently divorced and feeling lonely as ever. I know that the rule is supposed to be 3 months off for every year that you were married, but waiting 18 months to find someone feels impossible to me, and I'm pretty sure I will do something stupid if I wait that long. So, I jumped right into the dating pool. Needless to say, I found somebody that has so many good qualities and so many not so good qualities. But I feel attracted to her brokenness, if that makes sense. For reference, here's what I see as her cons. She has 2 kids with 2 different fathers, and custody is a constant juggle with both of them, which has hindered any real dating time. Also, she has never been married and was forced/convinced to have the kids, even though she knew that the would-be father wouldn't be there for her in the future. She never finished any further education because of her kids, and is thus living in a very low-income life trying to support them. She's getting kicked out of her apartment this week, and is looking to rent a hotel room for a while until she can find somewhere better. Her past is riddled with sexual, verbal, and some physical abuse, although she hasn't opened up to me about the extent of it. She is one of 7 children in her family, and between the other siblings, there are over a dozen nieces and nephews present. But she has some good qualities too. These are the things I see that I love about her, but I'm not sure if I can handle everything that comes with it. She is humble and knows that she is fortunate to have the things that she does, and she loves her kids. She has an innocent vibe about her that is so easy to want to help. She shares a lot of the same interests that I do, which makes us a good match if it wasn't for the cons listed above. She doesn't drink or smoke, and neither do I. She is agnostic, which meshes well with my atheism. She is very pretty to me, and I feel physically attracted to her. My better judgment tells me to keep waiting, and to let this one go because she's damaged goods. But my heart says I should help her, and over time she could become the perfect partner, if not wife. So my question really is, why do I feel attracted to broken people? Should I refrain from getting too involved? And is it possible to fix a broken person who has gone through everything that she has? Thanks, guys. Anonymous.
This is a great question.
It really
I was really excited to read this.
Oh my gosh, that's a great question.
Because I have some theories behind this.
Yeah.
To answer the question, why am I attracted to broken people? Because you're broken.
Right. You're going through your own brokenness.
Right. Exactly.
You've been shattered by that last relationship.
My theory to this is that I feel like we attract people at the same brokenness level that we're at.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And this is the damaging part, and the thing that really struggles when you end a long-term relationship and you jump right back into the dating pool. When you yourself haven't healed,
yes,
you're going to be attracting other people who are at the exact same spot that you are.
Yep.
And it can become kind of dangerous because then you get stuck into this situation, and kind of as our listener is talking about, I hear you saying that almost kind of like you're a philanthropist. Like, how can I help this person? How can
benevolent dater?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not about her.
No. Right
now it's about you, and the best thing that you can do is work on you and take care of yourself. I get the situation that you're in and wanting to kind of write it out because you don't want to be the bad guy. You don't want to feel like you are abandoning her or whatever. But I guess the thing that I would really want you to think about is, as you heal yourself, imagine 4 years down the road, you've worked through all these issues yourself. You've healed. You've gone, back to kind of your starting point. Are you still going to be attracted to this person? Are you still going to have all these things in common? Are you still going to feel like this person's on the same level that you are? Yeah. My guess is probably not.
Probably not. And I want to contribute to this, but also, Nick, as I'm bringing up this point, I want to come back to you in a second because I want to ask, you've been pretty vocal on the show that you've survived divorce. And, I want to make sure that, if you could maybe weigh in with your personal, what was your lived experience in this area, this could be interesting. But, to the writer, Anonymous, here's the thing I want you to understand. So you reference something that is true. So when people ask us, hey, I've just gotten divorced, how long before I should date again? As a general rule, we do say we want you to take 3 months off the dating game for every year that you were married, right? And so I don't do math. I was told there would be no math on this podcast. That was almost the only reason I signed up. But I think he said 18 months, so I assume that they were married for something like 6 years. So I think that's how it breaks down. So here's the deal, Anonymous. When we say that, we don't mean we don't want you to go on any dates for 18 months, for a year and a half. We just want you to be alone. That's not what we're saying. We're saying we don't want you to be available for a serious relationship for a while. And 18 months is our good barometer. Now, the magic reason why is because you are kind of stepping out of this car accident. Okay, so you've just survived this very scary, very chaotic car accident where there were flashing lights and the smell of gasoline and people bleeding and people screaming, and you were running out of this terrible pileup, and then you're getting into a rental car and we're just going to cruise away. And it's no, you need to sit down. Okay, you need to get your bearings and you need to understand what happened. You need to go through the wreckage. You need to find your keys. You need to get all your stuff secure and you need to clear your mind before you try to get back on the road. And here's why. Because you're going to bump into somebody who has very evident red flags that is not a good fit for you in a lot of ways. And because you have the opportunity to sort of be their hero and rescue them, you're going to be attracted to that relationship when you normally wouldn't be thinking about that for yourself, right? And that's something I want to bring up. I'm totally fine. I don't care necessarily. I don't believe there's like a legitimate relationship versus an illegitimate one. The fact that she has children, the fact that she's been with, she's had children with other men, the fact that she kind of has a past, according to him, the cons that he brings up, kind of indicator lights of like, hey, maybe she makes bad judgment decisions. Maybe she has like really instantaneous judgment. And maybe, she doesn't think long term. Okay, that kind of seems to be the picture he's painting. I'm not going to disqualify any of that. I'm not going to look at this person and say, she's inherently bad, you should walk away. I'm going to say, you're not ready to be serious. And let me tell you this, even if you sound like a really selfless guy, Anonymous. You talk about how you want to be helpful, you see this woman, you see her plight, and you want to help her. Let me tell you something. If you really feel benevolently about it, let me appeal to your benevolent sensibilities. You should not be entering those two children's lives. You should not be entering those two kids' lives as the rebound new boyfriend when you are so broken still and you still have your own healing to do. It is not likely to last, okay? If I had to place money on this, it's not going to work out. And in part, not just because of you tell us about her red flags, buddy, you have red flags. Okay, you have red flags. You have not healed, and you're still shaking right now, and you're putting your hands on the wheel and saying, it's fine, I know what to do. And we're trying to put our hand on yours and say, stop. Take the key out of the ignition. Get out of the car. Stand here on the side for a while. Ride passenger for a while. Don't drive, right? And if you are benevolent and you care for her and you see these children, you think about them warmly, I don't want to see you get very serious with somebody this fast. I don't mind you dating. Go on dates. But don't like get into something serious. And right now you're talking about one girl, you know a lot about her. She's in a hotel. You're probably thinking about, move in with me. Like this cowboy riding to the rescue thing is dangerous for you. And the reason you're even thinking about doing it so obviously, I think in part is because you just survived a divorce.
Yeah. And as Jim mentioned, I can relate to this. I was with somebody married for 6 years. We were together for close to 10. And it ended very suddenly. With very little notice, and I went through a lot of these things as well. I didn't wait to start dating. Like I jumped right back into it, but I jumped back into it with the intention of another relationship. Yeah, and that was because a lot of the discomfort and the meaning that I was giving this experience, right? Because To me, it has a lot to do with how we value ourselves. And when you go through a really difficult divorce, you assign a value to yourself. And you're not really being honest or fair with yourself either. And I think this is probably where this benevolence comes from too. This hero, I need to jump in and I need to fix this. I need to help somebody because that gives you meaning, right? Yeah. You're trying to disprove the idea that you have in your head that I'm worthless, this person left me, I'm not worthy of a relationship, but I can prove myself wrong by jumping in and getting into this relationship and fixing this person and helping them out. Yeah. But that's the wrong way to do it.
So you dated right away, and I hear you saying, I didn't do the casual, keep it light, superficial dating for very long. I came at it sort of with a desire to find another long-term permanent mate. Yeah. Yeah, and that mentality. Now, how well did that work out?
Take a guess.
I was there. Yeah, I remember.
I
remember some of these people. No, there was a racist. Like there was some weird stuff.
There was no racist.
It was kind of a racist. She was racish,
which I didn't realize until later on. But here's the thing: we're not going to get into that.
I sure hope so, Nick. I hope you didn't realize it on the first date. You were like, well, she's got pretty eyes. She's got nice blue eyes and blonde hair and a nice Nazi tattoo on her neck.
Which we can laugh about now because I've worked through all this. But yes, I mean, and there was a lot of people right away that were just as broken as I was. Yeah. But I couldn't see it. Yes. Because I wasn't actually looking at that person.
Yes.
Who I was looking at is I was looking at, I need somebody in my life to justify that
Right.
I'm still loved, that somebody still cares about me.
Which is part of the equation. Yeah.
And
I completely see that.
that's not the right way to get value. That's not the
Yes.
right way to value yourself. You can't look at other people and use other people for your own self-value, right? We have to
Yeah.
find our own value.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing too. Is there were some women that I dated early on that were great people.
Right.
They were really great
Right
women.
girl.
Exactly.
Wrong
And guess
time.
what happened?
Right.
It didn't work.
Didn't work.
Because as soon as things started getting serious, they realized how broken I was.
Yes.
And I wasn't ready for the relationship.
Anonymous, this is what I'm talking about. Right girl, wrong time can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I want you to take a break. That's why I don't want you to be available for big, deep, serious relationships. And in part, it's because of what Nick just said. So there's this wrong saying that you hear a lot in couples talk. Opposites attract. And that might be true, but birds of a feather flock together. And so we tend to end up with whoever we are at that time. And so if you have sort of, to use this expression, like a low value right now because you're damaged goods, you've just been through something and your self-esteem is low and the way that you've lost your swagger, you've lost who you are. I'm going to tell you right now, whoever you end up with is not your true value. And so eventually, hopefully you heal and grow, and that person that's their honest peak, and like you're much more emotionally healthy than that. And so then later you're going to have real problems. That's the first point. The second point is, whenever you get out of a divorce, here's what I need you to understand. The data shows us, and this is why we came up with a 3 months for every year barometer, is because people tend to jump right back in to another serious relationship having dated fewer than one other partner before they end up in their next serious relationship. That's what the data says. So from divorce to next relationship, which lasts 6 months or longer, the data says it's like 1.2 partners in between those two. That's not enough. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't show enough downtime either. It's usually within the first year they end up in their next serious one. Now here's why that's bad. The reason you're doing that is because of familiarity. I've been married for 12 years. I don't know what I would do with myself. Like, I fantasize about it. I think I'm going to go to the bar, and I'm going to eat whatever I want, and I'm not going to have to listen to anybody, and I'm going to watch all the shows. And I think by the end of that night, when I'm crying into my beer, I'm going to realize I liked being in a house, in a familiar setting that I decorated with them and my family around me and my trappings around me and my normal life and a shared bank account and routine. It's the warm blanket of life. And whenever you suddenly lose that, you are a fish out of water. You're like a shellless crab looking for another one. And that's what you're vulnerable to. And that's why we tell you to pump the brakes, because you are going to follow this almost instinctive drive to be safe again. And that's why you look for familiarity. You hate dating.
Well, and that's the paradox too, right?
Yes.
Because the relationship provides immediate relief and comfort.
Right.
Familiarity, right? So it because when you're in a relationship and it ends, as Jim said, it's scary.
Yes.
It is really scary.
It's terrifying.
It is. It's
and
terrifying.
And then now you get that reassurance.
Yeah. So then if we're saying, okay, don't do that, don't rush into the next relationship, then
Right.
your only other alternative is you have to face your fear.
Yes.
You have to accept the fact that this is going to be terrifying. It's going to be scary for a while, but you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
That's the thing you need to remember. There's nothing that's going to kill you about being single.
And that's the thing, Anonymous, that I want you to hold on to. I'm fine with you dating, okay? I'm not fine with relationship. I don't like exclusivity for you right now. I don't like you getting drawn into somebody else's story. The reason why you're so vulnerable to doing that so quickly is because that's what you're used to. Marriage skills are different than dating skills. Long-term relationship skills are different. That's what you're great at right now. And so you're trying to, to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So now you're looking for that again. And trust me, that's not where you're at. So, Anonymous, I'm not going to so much comment on the pros and cons of this woman. I'm going to more comment on the pros and cons of you getting involved this soon.
Yeah, we really haven't even talked about her.
No.
Because it doesn't have anything to do with her.
It really doesn't,
Right.
But the fact that he is alarmed and that this does not seem like his type and he is concerned shows me that there's a part of his mind that's going, dude, what are we doing?
Yep.
Yeah, and like he needs to see that and push through it. So, Anonymous, thank you so much for writing in. This is a story I think so many people relate to. And I really want to find out what he ends up doing.
Yeah, I want to follow up. Let us know.
I want a second letter, buddy. So this advice comes with a catch. You
Yes.
got to tell us what you did and keep us in the loop, okay?
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we discuss emotionally focused couples therapy. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's Theraproducer sponsor is David, Data Scoop, Villalon. This week, David sent me a participation award for my... Did you see this?
Yeah.
For my effort in the Pod Therapy Book Club, which for so many reasons was freaking genius. Suffice it to say, last week's episode of the book club, which is available on our Patreon, was about solid 20 minutes of just profanity. Me just swearing into the mic, mostly because of something to do with participation awards. So David's comedic timing was awesome. David, we love you. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for helping us get this message out there. If you'd like to make the show possible and listen to my venomous half-cocked takedowns of New York Times best-selling books, you can go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's www.patreon.com/therapy. We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy. Our next question is about couples therapy.
Should my husband and I do emotionally focused therapy?
I like this one.
Yeah, this is a good question. Hi, Nick, Jim. My husband and I have been together for 23 years and married for 20.
Wow.
We've raised our combined 4 boys to adulthood, and we are enjoying the freedom that comes with having a so-called empty nest. One guy still lives downstairs. Unfortunately, we're not enjoying each other as much as we'd like to. We're both frustrated by what feels like the same pattern of miscommunication, misunderstandings, arguments, and triggering each other too easily. Triggering each other's anger too easily. It's never over big stuff. We never fought over kids, money, trust issues. There's no jealousy. There's no power struggles or abuse. It just feels like 2 stubborn assholes butting heads all the time because we constantly misread each other and overreact in anticipation of what we think is coming. This pattern has been set for a long time, and we've had many conversations about how desperately we both want to change it, but we are unable to figure out how. I was poking around on the interwebs and I stumbled on a local therapy office that offers emotionally focused therapy. When I showed the description to my husband, he said, "This looks like you could have written this. When can we start?" I'd love to know what you think of EFT, since I've never heard of it. Is this a well-known method? Is it effective? I'd love to jump right in, but only if it's a sound investment of our time, money, and effort. I can't tell you how much I love the podcast. Oh wait, I think I did tell you in person in a drunken stupor at Scoop Fest. From Linda Vanilla Scoop Brandmeier.
Oh, Linda B. Linda B is one of my favorite people. She was at Sushi, Sake, and Psychology with us. She actually brought her son with her, which was really cool. Mm-hmm. And she was our very first person who ever left us a review on our Facebook. And so she's got a special place in my heart. Linda from Canada, we love you. And so good question here. So what Linda's talking about is a specific type of couples therapy that's called EFT, emotionally focused therapy. There's lots of different approaches when it comes to marriage and family therapy. This is one kind of school of thought. But what's interesting about this, Nick, is that it's not so much a school of thought like you might think of like systems theory or solution-focused brief therapy or CBT. It is a program. And that's, I think, its actual greatest strength is that it happens in 3 phases, and it's kind of like this actual program. So the therapist has a script that they're essentially following. Almost every session is sort of like figured out as far as what the topic's going to be, what the questions are, what the homework is. In that effect, I've noticed for couples, it's pretty nice because they don't have to like just kind of meander through the world. They can kind of come in with some structure and sort of follow the guidelines, and like they can sort of know where they're at in the process. And it's designed to really produce some good ideas. It mostly, as far as what it does, is it mostly like illuminates, here are the things we're doing that are dysfunctional, identify, codify, make sure we get that. And then essentially, here are alternatives that we agree to do together. And then there's this accountability process of how are we enacting those changes. So it's very practical. I think it's very straightforward. It's done in 3 phases. I like it. Having said that, I also think that's also kind of the weakness of it, is that it's so formalized and so structured that a lot of things that might be happening in the relationship get overlooked. Now, in her case, she's talking about just communication. She says, listen, we're great, except we're two assholes that butt heads, right? Because we misinterpret what each other is saying. That's where EFT, I really like it for that, for communication stuff. I think it does reboot the marriage and kind of create a new way to do things. I don't think it would be my choice for like affair recovery or marriages that are like on the brink of divorce, but like reboot, kind of supercharge the marriage, kind of clean house, and especially if you're switching from having kids around to being empty nesters, great idea to go EFT. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to give my feedback with the caveat that I am not a marriage and family therapist. I don't do couples therapy or anything like this, but I actually came across EFT. It was about 2.5 or maybe 3 years ago. Listening to a therapy podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who were they? You're cheating on me?
You know what? Here's the thing. I don't even remember what it was called.
Exactly, because they were crap.
Exactly. It was terrible. It was actually really informative, but it would have bored the shit out of the average person.
Right.
I listened to it just because it was for therapists.
That, by the way, is my biggest gripe, because I want to listen to therapy podcasts. I want to listen to psychology, but they're all either really boring or they're like people that are amateurs trying to give real advice. And like, I feel like you and I are right in that middle space of extremely boring and incompetent.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So people are like, well, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a good waste of an hour.
2 wrongs.
2 wrongs can make it right.
But no, the thing that I actually love about emotional focused therapy is kind of how essentially what it really kind of focuses on is it focuses on like the bonding that occurs between the couple.
Yes.
And it kind of focuses a little bit on threats to the relationship or what each individual identifies as a threat to the relationship and how that individual reacts to it. And then how they react to it ultimately can be misinterpreted as another threat to the relationship by the other person. And what was so crazy was that I was actually, I was dating somebody at the time and it just was not working out, but it seemed like we were so compatible. And
was this the racist?
No, this is long past the
one
racist.
of the other racists.
Yeah. No. Anyway, we seemed very compatible, but it wasn't working, and I just couldn't figure out why, because it just seemed like this should just work.
Right.
But I just kind of stumbled across this podcast. I listened to it. I was like, oh my God, this is it. Because it's one of those things where, I'll kind of give you an example of how this may work. So let's say you have a husband and a wife, and because of some kind of insecurity, the wife feels like something is a threat to the relationship, so she kind of starts to pull away a little bit.
Yes.
She kind of starts to isolate. So then how does that affect the husband? Well, the husband sees that as being the threat to the relationship.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right. So then he jumps in and is like, well, I need to reel her back in.
Yeah, or he pulls away. And then that validates what she thought. Oh, he doesn't love me.
Or as I was going, how he jumps in and then she now feels smothered, so she tries to push away even more.
Right.
And it just creates, it's a snowball effect.
Yes.
And it all has to do with the bonding that occurs within the relationship and how those attempts are viewed as threats.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I kind of like about EFT is it's very in the moment too.
Right.
Like I was watching some videos on YouTube about this and how the therapist does it. They're very responsive to what happens right there in the session in the moment.
Right.
And kind of using this as, okay, I see kind of this is what's happening here. Is this what typically happens at home? Because as you're saying this, I'm seeing you do this.
Yes.
And how are you perceiving this?
Yes.
Right.
That's a big part of what couples therapy is we're essentially, first off, we're catching the things you don't notice anymore, right? And so we're noticing these trends, these patterns that are sort of dysfunctional and why they're happening. And then we usually interfere with it. We usually interrupt that cycle and try to bring your awareness to it and try to change it. So, EFT, Linda, I love it. I think it's especially for what you're describing, I really like EFT. And for anybody out there that's listening to this, if you're paired up in any kind of a couple and, you've thought, man, I think that, when do you go see a couples therapist? This is one of those things that, again, you're not going to be surprised because our general philosophy is like, don't wait. But yeah, no, I agree with that in this case too, because a lot of people wait to go see a therapist till they're on the verge of divorce. And they do it because insurance doesn't cover divorce, and so like insurance will cover your therapy, but it won't cover divorce. And I really like the idea of an annual booster shot where you agree as a couple to come in for 3 sessions, make a list of things that you'd like to talk about, and then just like bring that to the therapist, tell them ahead of time, hey, we're really only going to do a month of this. But I think that that's a really good idea as an annual thing, just for the health of the relationship and to demonstrate to each other, and if you have children, that you take, the family seriously and you want to be the best version of the relationship. But when it comes to couples therapy too, the most common thing that I do is I give them this thing I created called the rules for fighting. It's like Jim's rules for fighting. And it's, all my stuff always has clip art, but it has like a lot of clip art on it. I ripped off Hanna-Barbera like crazy on this one. It's got like Flintstones and Jetsons and all this junk. But it essentially is XYZ statements, I feel statements, teaching them to say, I feel emotion word when you action in or during situation. And if I can get couples to do that, and then also obey other rules, like don't ever say always never, and don't ever lead with a you statement and things like that. There's all these rules of communication. And that's where EFT gets so much done with such superficial work, because it can just change the way you language. And if it does that, you'd be surprised. Like that fundamentally changes so much about the relationship, just changing the way they talk to each other. So I think it's a great idea. I think Linda should absolutely do it.
Okay, so for to kind of wrap this up, we can give EFT the Pod Therapy seal of approval.
It gets the bump
for whatever the hell that's worth.
EFT is skyrocketing. They got triple platinum.
I like it.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very good idea. Yeah. I think absolutely do it, and I think especially for what she's describing, it's a really good idea. And if you're out there and you're thinking, man, my relationship is not the best version of itself, if you don't want to go to a therapist, go to a bookstore or get on Amazon and pick up like a couples homework manual. There's a great one, Solution Focused Brief Therapy Couples Manual. Buy the workbook and then just, make that a routine where, you pull a page from that once a week and you both work on it, and, it's a date night thing. You just get together and have some dessert and talk about your answers. Anything that increases the communication and changes things is really good. So I want to see healthy couples. So I think that's something we don't talk enough about on the show. But yeah, families and couples, man. Good for you, Linda. And thank you for being both a Patreon, she's a THERAPOD, and also one of our very first reviewers. We love you back.
Thanks, Linda. Okay, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we will talk about how to survive the holidays after a divorce. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's Theraproducer sponsor is Judi Schneider. Judi wants to give a shout out to her dear friend Dr. Haryati Sharima Abdul Majid and her amazing team members at Mercy Malaysia. Mercy Malaysia offers early counseling and psychosocial support for persons affected by disasters and gives the victims a safe place to express their feelings and thoughts. Sharima is currently caring for her father, who is suffering from Alzheimer's, while still organizing and planning for Mercy Malaysia when time allows. Judi wants you and the world to know how proud she is of Sharima and her astounding work ethic, and just wants to say that she loves her, misses her warm hugs, and thinks about her wonderful father every day. If you'd like to join our party and help make this show possible and do your own shout out to somebody you care about, go to patreon.com/therapy and support the show. Thank you. We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy. Our next listener writes in about surviving the holidays after a divorce. Hey guys, long-time listener, first-time writer. I'm looking for a little advice on how to handle my first holiday after a divorce. First, a little backstory. Growing up, holidays were always stressful. My family insisted on everything being perfect, and if it didn't go as planned, such as someone cut the potatoes too small or made mashed potatoes a little too mushy, well, the whole day was ruined. I never was yelled at or worse, but the air of stress and disappointment that would hang over the party would be so thick that everyone in the extended family would get out quickly. This led to quite a bit of anxiety around the holidays that I'm still working through today. Fast forward to the first few holidays after getting married. My then wife and I work on the anxiety and just being present at each get-together. I slowly improve only because I can work on it just a few times a year, but with the addition of some kids, the holidays become ours, and all of the fun little traditions that help me to enjoy everything begin. This year, I separated from and divorced my wife, and now see the kids a few times each month. Everything was going as good as can be expected until Halloween came along. I was wandering Target, and when I saw the seasonal Halloween and the beginning of the Christmas huge wave, this emotion hit me hard. At first, it was just an intense sadness, but it's morphed into a weird missing the good times with the family all around me. The little things, like checking the kids' candy while I pocketed some, or reading the night before Christmas, are no longer things I get to do. And it really hits me hard that I'm not part of those traditions anymore. Unfortunately, I'm not at a point where I can have the kids at my place for an extended period of time. And so even trying to create a new set of traditions around the holidays is difficult. I'm trying to accept that this is my new normal, but I'm having trouble even thinking about Christmas without all the emotions crashing down. Do you have any thoughts or advice on getting through the next few months of cheer when all I want to be is Scrooge? Thanks for everything, and a happy Chrismahana Kwanzaa to you and yours, Kay.
As
Good
somebody who
question.
celebrates the winter solstice, I'm offended.
Oh, yeah. That was ignorant and inconsiderate of Kay to not throw that in there. Or Festivus.
Festivus.
Festivus, yeah. What about Festivus, Kay? You ignorant bigot. But no, this is a great question, man.
Here we are again. And then we're going to be dealing with a lot of these, I think, over the next couple weeks,
Yes.
because it is a very common thing for a lot of people to go through. And so the first thing I want to point out, I want to go back up to the first paragraph. When he kind of talks about, he says a little backstory. That piece was very useful.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you for including that, because that kind of gave me a little bit of a picture into what you identify as what Christmas should look like.
Right.
And what those shoulds were that were kind of programmed into you at an early age.
Right.
And we need to be mindful of those things, because when we have this idea of this is what it should be, then any deviation from that causes stress. And then how we deal with that stress can be good or bad. And it sounds like in this case it was bad. It causes this bad attitude in the environment, and then no one wants to stick around and everybody wants to leave.
Yeah, right.
The same thing, it sounds like it was kind of happening again, only the way Christmas should be, in quotes, is with family. And it's the family that, we did this stuff together, and now this is going to be the first time that you experience it without this ideal image in your head of what Christmas is going to look like.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, Kay, here's the thing I want you to take away. Whenever you go through a divorce, the closest thing that we compare that to is the death of a loved one. Even though that other person's still alive, even though you might hate that other person, there is a death that is essentially occurring. And in this case, it's the death of normalcy. It's the death of the old family tradition and what was common. And going through a holiday recently divorced is very similar to going through a holiday after losing a loved one and thinking like, wow, this is the first holiday without my dad, or this is the first holiday without this person. It's very, very similar. And so, Kay, when I hear this, part of me wants you to understand that you have permission to grieve, and you have permission to be sad about this and to just notice the differences, and for all of it to feel very strange, and for you to be able to sort of observe and calculate your loss. I want you to have permission to do that. I wish I could come in and soothe that pain. I think to some extent we can, and we'll have some helpful coping ideas for what you can be doing, but they're going to be similar to what we tell people who are grieving and going through something similar to this. So, Kay, that's one thing I want you to understand, is that you have permission to grieve this. Whenever there's a loss of a relationship through divorce or even the loss of a job, there is a grieving process, because it is similar to permanently losing somebody in your life, and how that changes and affects you in an intimate and personal way. And I think that this is something, Nick, as you said, a lot of people really could relate to around the holiday season, especially if they've gone through significant life change. Divorce happens during the other 11 months of the year, and then you get to December and it's like, oh my gosh, you have kids, you have traditions, you have this warm, and that's what December's all about, right? It's, about family and about closeness, and it's cold outside, and so we're spending time together, and it's warmth, and it's candy, and it's decorating trees, and it's music, and we put aside our differences, and it's wonderful things. Yeah. And now you're doing it alone. That's really hard.
Not to mention that holidays, have this way of reminding you of shit that you want to forget.
Yes. Yeah, right.
So, I mean, it could be your second Christmas, it could be your third Christmas after, and it's still there's always, it's because it's something that we celebrate. It kind of creates this foundation in your brain for memories where other memories are stacked on top of it. So there's going to be all these constant triggers of all these different things that occur that are going to take you back to that moment.
Absolutely.
Have a plan. That's what I would say.
Do something.
Yeah. Keep yourself busy. Have a plan. Surround yourself with people. I remember the first Christmas after my divorce. I think I went back home, which I always swore I would never do because I'm from the Midwest and it's cold back there.
Yeah.
I never went home for the holidays.
But that was a good choice.
That was, because I want to surround myself with the people who love me.
Yes.
It was going to be difficult. So you have to make that decision. That's where my support team is.
Yes.
So that's where I need to be.
And that's the mentality, Kay, that I want you to adopt. Like if somebody had passed away in your life and this was your first holiday season without that very close relationship, how would you mentally give yourself permission to do different things, right? And I think you do things similar to what Nick's talking about. I think that you would choose, okay, I'm going on a vacation maybe to go see other family. Or, you know what, I'm going to the beach. I'm going to the beach that weekend and I'm going to go take advantage of the sales, or I'm going, something that gets you away from the isolation and just noticing your loss. And the other thing, Kay, that I really want to applaud you on is what you noticed on Halloween, that you noticed how those triggers were happening, that you noticed that this was coming. You didn't expect it, but when it happened, you now are able to predict. And here we are in November, and you're thinking about December, and you're thinking, okay, this can happen. What am I going to do? Get ahead of it, Kay. Make a plan. Do something for yourself. Be out with friends. Invite yourself over to somebody's house. Do something that gets you out of your own head. I don't want you to just wait for this to happen. That's not healthy. It's not productive for you. But this will happen right now. This is part of the grieving process. That conspicuous absence must be absorbed. And it's going to be a hard one, buddy. But you know what? Remind yourself of the truth. That the loss of this family is not the death of this family. That you will recreate it in the ashes of that relationship, that healthy parents are better parents, and the fact that it's over now and that you guys can regroup and come up with a new year, 2019 is going to be a really good year for you, Kay. It really is. You're going to redesign the way you do family. You're going to redesign the way you do things with your kids. You are going to create your own traditions. You are going to find happiness. You are going to find new friendship. You are going to be a more vital, interesting person in the kids' lives, and you're not going to be bogged down with a dysfunctional relationship. Great days are ahead of you, Kay. Tell yourself the truth about that, okay?
This is just as much a beginning as it is an ending.
Absolutely. So, notice the gains, not just the loss. But also give yourself permission to feel it.
Yeah. Thank you for writing in, Kay.
So we got a couple of interesting wrap-up stuff here, Nick, as we come to the end of the show. We've got our apologies segment and announcements that we should be talking about as well. So you've issued your apology at the top of the show. You have another one that you need to be issuing.
No, I don't.
I think that you need to apologize to about 50 people out there who will randomly buy iPhones this holiday season and unfortunately be automatically subscribed to Pod Therapy.
Yes.
You did that to them.
I did. I went to the iPhone store last night, and I set a lot of the iPhones to auto-download Pod Therapy, but I wasn't the only one to do that, because as I was doing that...
You saw other things.
Well, yeah. The top 5 podcasts that were already on those phones were consistent with all of the
somebody
phones.
had already done it.
Yeah. It's not an original idea.
So if you're out there and you visit any kind of stores this holiday season, we expect you to guerrilla market Pod Therapy. That's what makes, I think, somebody a THERAPAL or a THERAPOD, is that they are aggressively pro-mental health. They will sign you up for therapy without your permission.
For all I know, I could have saved someone's life.
That's right. So, you never know. I have a few apologies
apology
as well. As I told you, I lost a bet to my wife, and so I had to watch a cheesy Christmas movie. We watched Love Actually, which stirred me to have a very deep internal dialogue about who some human beings are and whether they are actually other people. And then I did things on the internet, which I now must apologize for. Dear actress Keira Knightley, I'm sorry that I said that you and Natalie Portman are the same person. Dear actress Natalie Portman, I'm sorry that I said you and Keira Knightley are the same person. And dear everybody who is now Googling Keira Knightley and Natalie Portman, welcome to my hell. I'm sorry that I've taken you down this rabbit hole. This is
That's a common mistake, though.
Dude, I'm telling you, they are the exact same person. Last one, Dear Magician Penn Gillette, I'm sorry that I said a blurred image of you on our local news station looked like Donny Osmond if he were doing strictly censored Japanese porn.
You said that?
I did. Penn always shows up on like random local stuff, and like News 3 was like, guess who's coming to the studio? And like it was a blurry image of Penn. And I was like, is it Donny Osmond? And everybody was like, it's blurry. And I was like, Japanese porn. So there's that. We also want to thank some Patreons. We want to thank our newest TheraPals at patreon.com/therapy. Welcome. Kelly Gagner, Craig Little, Jackie and Dustin, a.k.a. Scoopy and the Beast, Dwayne Webb, and as we were sitting here, we got one more TheraPal. Welcome to Glenn. Excited to have you, Glenn.
Oh, that's me. Once a month, we say thank you to all of our Therapods, but today we are thanking our newest recruits to the Dapper 3-toed reptilian special forces of our therapeutic alliance. Welcome our newest Therapod, Blaine Maurer.
Welcome, Blaine. Welcome to the aggressively pro-mental health special forces unit of our fan club. And last but not least, we want to thank our bosses, the Elite Eight, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of our fan club, the Theraproducers. Thank you, Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Chairman of the Board, Executive Theraproducer Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Kayla Lansbury, David Data Scoop, Villalon, Judi Schneider, Gray Whitaker, the Vice President of the Board, and Dr. Ben Dawn. If you'd like to hear this episode unedited and enjoy the many things which we're about to talk about that happen on our Patreon, you can check us out at patreon.com/therapy and join the party. And final thing, Nick, we have some announcements to make. Let's talk about some of the things that are going on our Patreon.
Yeah.
So you
what
just
are those?
posted. Well, okay. I'll jump in. Way to hand off here. I love our banter.
I don't remember. I don't
really
remember
good banter.
what we were talking about.
No, the energy's awesome.
Sorry.
All right, so if you go to our Patreon, we only post this show once a week unless we have like a special bonus episode. We do our little Therapy Thursdays, but we do a lot of interaction with our team members on Patreon. We are a podcast with a purpose, and so our folks on Patreon are just really supportive, and we have lots of extra goodies that we do.
I know what we're talking about now.
Yeah, lots of fun things. So one thing is the second podcast that you've launched, which is now my favorite podcast. Afterthoughts. And I love that when you guys say it, you always say it together. Here, hold on. I want to be Laura. Ready?
Okay.
Don't forget to tune into Afterthoughts.
What I have in mind as we say that is the SNL skit when they always make fun of NPR.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Terry Gross.
Yeah. Terry.
Yeah.
So
great show.
Yeah, I mean,
I love it.
So it's for patrons only. I don't know if anybody actually even listens to it.
I do.
But even if no one listens to it, we're still going to do it.
It's
because
awesome.
it's kind of funny.
It is so much fun.
Honestly, all it is it's just conversations that Laura and I end up having about either therapy stuff or about the podcast.
Yeah.
Because she'll listen to it. She'll have issues
feedback,
with it
questions.
or feedback or something. And so we just decided, you know what, we should be recording this because these are actually leads to really good discussions sometimes.
Yeah, and so I'm going to launch my new mini podcast right now, and it's called Post Afterthoughts. And this is when I respond to what you guys said about me. First, it's Prague. Okay, that was the city the guy wrote from was Prague. It was David from Prague, so there's that. Also, the debate about whether or not no therapy is better than bad therapy. I also was on the same page you were. We both said very clearly, I feel, that no, as a general rule, you should go in anyway, though obviously somebody who's breaking the law and is a terrible therapist would be bad, and that would be toxic. But no, I thought we took a pretty fair position on that.
I thought we did too, but
Laura didn't hear it that way.
I don't know.
You got to go back. Got to listen to the game tape. And this concludes Afterthoughts.
And then we have our book club.
We have our awesome book club.
So that's going strong. We're on chapter 3. We'll be doing 4 sometime later this week.
Yep, of our November-December book. So we're about halfway through it, and that's The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F by Mark Manson. And if you're listening to this, that means chapter 4 is going to be posted on our Patreon that week. But chapter 3 was very passionate and very weird, and I got very profanity-laced, and it got really weird really fast. So great book, except for all the fighting I am doing with the author. And we have a special announcement, a special event that's going on. My birthday is coming up. It is going to be on Saturday, December 1st, and we are going to an awesome karaoke bar. Nick's coming. His girlfriend's coming.
Jim's planning his own birthday party.
I have to, because I'm in my 30s. Nobody's going to do it for me. So I have to do this for myself. And we're going to a karaoke bar, which means you get to put in song requests. Nick's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Our women are going to be there. And all the awesome friends are going to be there. Eddie, who you've heard Nick and I talk about, who has a lovely beard, is also going to be there, and some other really good people. If you would like to propose a song or songs that you would like Nick or I to perform.
No. I'm not singing.
Oh, it's going to happen. It's my birthday. That's what you have to do. It's a karaoke bar. I think if I can get you to have enough drinks, you'll do it. So if you would like to propose a song that you would like to hear Nick do.
This sounds so painful.
I wish you could see his face right now. It's glorious.
I would rather have root canal.
Oh, well, we can do both.
Can we?
This
Can we do a
karaoke place in a
Patreon root
dentist.
canal? I'll do that.
So listen, if you would like to put a song request in front of Nick, or even a duet, okay, we could do a duet. I feel like you could do a good rap. I'm going to put in a rap. I think that'd be good.
No.
If you would like to put a song request out there for myself, for Nick, or for both of us together, you can go to our Patreon. Only patrons get to propose this. So it'll be a thread on the Patreon called Jim's Birthday Karaoke Song List. And you can put up your favorite jam. And I'm going to put the pressure on Nick. I think if we can get enough upvotes on there and enough action on that thread, Nick will feel guilted into doing this.
No, we didn't talk about this.
It's my birthday. We don't have to talk about it. That's what we're doing.
He's so upset.
You're not going to leave me hanging on my birthday. You got to put out on my birthday. That's the deal. I get it once a year. You have to sing to me, and you can't just do the happy birthday song. I love this energy. It looks like you just witnessed a terrible tragedy.
I'm about to cry.
It's going to be so good. I'm so excited.
I mean, he looks as though you've just proposed, if you hit this goal on Patreon, I'll just punch Nick in the face.
Yeah, That's what I should have done. I should have made it a goal. And if you give this much money, then Nick has no choice. But if you want your song requests on there, put them on, and Nick and I are going to do it. Okay, I'm going to twist his arm and shame him, and I'm going to videotape it, and I'm going to put it only on our Patreon, though, Nick. I will stop the bleeding at the Patreon. So I will tape all of our performances, both duets and individuals, and I will post it only to Patreon, because that's the only place I feel safe posting things where we're obviously drinking. And singing songs. That's the only safe place to do it. So if you're not a member yet, become a THERAPAL, become a THERAPOD so that you can enjoy the chaos and the carnage and the melodious sounds of Nick Tangeman.
Yeah, can we just end the show now? I'm done. I need to get some air.
That's all the time that we've got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, the Ice Cream Social Podcast, and thank you to those who contributed to the show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, pod therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Help us reach others by sharing this episode. Copy and paste the link in the description. Don't forget that you can find us at facebook.com/podtherapy, on Twitter @PodTherapyGuys, and now on patreon.com/therapy.
Do you want to add your own advice to today's questions? Post your thoughts at podtherapy.net and join the conversation. I'm not singing.
I'm Jim the birthday boy.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week.
I cannot wait for this. How did you think you were going to get through
He is
karaoke?
so upset.
How did you think?
I just thought we were going to go. I didn't know I was going to be singing.
Oh, he is very upset about this Patreon.
The fear. The fear is just right there in your eyes.
You've not heard me sing.
I know.